Hey, family, it's your sister here, Jocelyn, and welcome to another episode of Faith on the Journey. If this is your first time tuning in, we welcome you and want you to know that we are here to serve you. We are here to help strengthen your faith, heal your heart, and help you to discover a sense of community. And we do so in a number of different ways. First, by offering this broadcast week after week, where I bring in guests from all over the world to talk about their healing journey and different tools that you can use to apply to your own life. In addition to that, we offer trauma healing groups, which are Bible studies that help you to heal from trauma. This is something that you can do through Faith on the Journey, or we can also help you to start a healing group at your church. We also have a team of Christian counselors who specialize in Bible-based trauma-informed care and grief counseling. And so all these resources and more are available to you, and you can learn more about it through faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. Now, today, I am so excited for this guest we're going to have on the show. I I think about how she's been so influential in my life. When I was a new believer in my walk, even as a teenager, I would read some of her books. This guest has over 40 books in the rotation and still writing today. And you're probably like, who is this? I'm going to tell you her name. This is Michelle McKinney Hammond. She is a renowned speaker. She is the queen of reinvention. She leads audience on a journey through what it means to be empowered to live their life to the fullest. And she is, as I mentioned, the best-selling author of over 40 books, selling over 2 million copies worldwide. She's an international speaker, relationship expert, life coach, Emmy Award-winning television host and actress, and the list goes on. Her bio is long, y'all. And so I just thank God for her life. I was blessed this past year or 2 years. I don't even know, I'm losing track of time. It's been about 2 years where I've been working with her in her ministry, Michelle McKinney Hammond Ministries, and she has a global reach. She is really transforming lives. And she took time out of her very busy schedule to be with us today. So we're blessed and honored to have you here with us today, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm always happy to spend time with you. When
Thank you.
we're playing, I'm here.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited about our conversation today, even though it's a difficult topic.
Mhm.
When I reached out to you, I said, Michelle, I want to do another episode on grieving the loss of a dream. And I think sometimes we really don't realize how that affects our lives. And so I would love for you to first share a little bit about your story, whatever you would like to share. And then we can kind of transition to how some of your learnings speak to the topic of today's show.
Mhm. Well, I have been in ministry for over 20 years now. I can't believe that. And of course, there have been ups and there have been downs. Just because you work for God does not make you exempt from disappointment, betrayals, heartbreak, all of these things. I think that He allows it and uses it in all of our lives so that we can be more effectual when we minister to others because we approach them from an empathetic position rather than one where we don't know, just like Jesus was tempted in all things so that He could intercede for us and be willing to do the task that He did for us based on knowing what we go through. Um, so all of that being said, I've had some ups and downs in my life. I've studied, I've suffered from the loss of someone I was getting ready to marry. That was a crash and burn. I've lost my job a couple of times. I've had financial fallouts. I've had upheaval employee wise in my ministry. So there have been a lot of things that I've experienced. I've experienced a physical disability and not being able to function for over a year and a half. So there have been a lot of things that I've been through that give me a heart for people who are going through. There have been dreams that have been put on hold in my life before, and I know what that means to wait for something to manifest. So, in all of these things, they all accumulate, I hope, into some form of wisdom that I can use to share with others through my books, through speaking, through master classes that I create. All of these things come out of my journey. You know, I tell people all the time that authors bleed for those pages. They don't just write them. If they're writing from a pure place in an authentic space, they have bled for every word that they share with you to bless you and empower you to live your best life.
That is the truth. I know I've only written one book in the blood that was on them pages. It's
Yeah.
real, you know?
Hmm.
But, that authenticity and the ability to be compassionate, I do agree with you as well, that does come from lived experience.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so for you, when you had gone through your process of grieving, many lost dreams along the way, what
Hmm.
really helped you to move forward in those moments?
I whispered one thing to myself, to be perfectly honest, Jocelyn, and that is God knows best. Sometimes we don't necessarily trust him with the process, but he has a track record in my life of making all things good, making all things right. I have had the aha moment after that thing has bottomed out and it hasn't come to light. And then later on, I see why it didn't. And I usually end up being very grateful. So I would say that based on God's track record with me, I've been able to lean in and say, God, you know best. I don't like what I'm experiencing right now. I can't see where this is going, but I have to choose to trust you.
That trust piece right there is huge,
Yeah.
and it's not always easy. I mean, is that something that you felt like over time you developed this response to be able to trust God in the darkness, if you will?
Oh, I definitely. It takes time. God has to develop his track record. Well, he doesn't have to, but we've got to see, reminisce. I always say we should have this faith trophy case, of all the times where we were disappointed and God showed up and we went, "Oh wow." And you've got to go back and look at that case whenever you can't find your way where you are. Because there are those moments, I don't care how long you've been walking with God, there are times when you just go, God, what are you doing? Hello, did you forget about me? What is going on? I mean, sound like a real old person now, like those little old mothers in the church. I've been walking with Jesus for 40 something years. And I can tell you, he's a good God. But I still have my moments. I have to stop, think about where the emotion is coming from, what's the thought attached to that emotion, and then realign my mindset so that I stay in a constant state of gratitude and trust, no matter what.
That's good. And I'm curious as to in this work, you describe a lot of the individual work that you have
Mhm.
to do in this process. So I would love to see if there's anything else you would like to add around the individual work to get yourself, at that place. And then afterwards, I also would like to talk about the important role that community plays in this process.
Well, that was where I was headed. You've got
Okay.
to have your support system. You've got to have those cheerleaders in your life, those people that provoke you and promote you to get in the right mindset and do the right thing. And I'm so glad and grateful for our elder tribe, at MMH, because we do that. I mean, we come together and we are real, we are funky, we are low down, we lay it all out and we go in. And I think that it's really helped people be on track and help them work through some very difficult issues in their lives. So the support system is critical. You've got to have that safe place where you can be honest and authentic and transparent with a group of people who will lovingly escort you back onto the right path or help you just realign your mindset or just say, baby, you are wrong. I mean, every now and then you can't roll with a yes crew because they will lead you down the wide path to destruction. But your good crew, they'll get in your Kool-Aid, stir up the tea, and pour it for you and make you drink it, And you have to have those types of people in your life.
Yes, and as someone in my life always says, you have to live a little to
Mhm.
understand the importance of certain things.
Yeah.
And so in this process of identifying this community, we have to go through some friendships and lose some friendships and readjust along the way. And so determining who can be in that intimate space, especially when it comes to work around healing, I know is important. And so what are some words of advice you would give someone who's trying to discern who is safe to have in that space?
Well, that's a good question, Jocelyn, because you really have to use discernment. And you won't always get it right. I mean, even Jesus had a Judas, but Judas was there for purpose. God used Judas, okay? So everybody needs that Judas. That Judas pushes you places you won't go voluntarily. However, that being said, being very prayerful about who you align yourself with, really listening to their conversation, listening to how they address matters in their own life. Also, just examining your track record with them and what their values are. Alignment of values is critical to walking with someone successfully. So if you're all about holiness and purity and that person's about, you know, what's the point? Just do your thing, child. God will forgive you. Well, that's probably not a good person for you to walk with because they're going to lead you off the path, give you advice that's not quite sound. So, really looking at values, um, track record with that person, listening to the conversation. Are they always criticizing other people? Guess what? They're going to criticize you be in front of your face and behind your back. So all of these things are things that you take into consideration to determine where your safe place is.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think, using that discernment in so many areas of our life, that's why we have to be so close to God. He's got
Yes.
to tell us, oh, you need to leave that relationship alone.
Mhm.
We can choose not to. We have free will, but it's for our good.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to what we were talking about in terms of the topic of grieving a lost dream and how you mentioned there were moments in your life where you were grieving that loss and then you saw how God was doing something in you and it might have been a part of a greater plan. Can you talk a little bit more about that and some of I mean, maybe even share a testimony or two of how you saw that play out for you?
Well, there was a time, Jocelyn, before I moved to Ghana where I was pursuing having a talk show in America. And I had great support, great people behind me, pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. And every time that I would get close to realizing that dream, something would happen. Crickets, and it was gone. And after a while, it was like, well, really? And I've got to stop here and say that I intellectually knew that spiritually speaking, there's a cycle of disappointment that usually occurs 3 times before we reach that promise. And that the disappointment is part of the process to purge us of any idolatrous inclinations we have towards what we can be looking forward to. So, that being said, having that intellectually in the back of my mind helped me intellectually, but it didn't help me emotionally. Well, then God told me to move to Ghana. And I was like, what? And I was obedient. I did what he asked to do. But I had that moment of sitting in my room and saying, okay, God, I did what you asked me to do. But what about the dreams of my heart? What about the things that I wanted to do on film? And what's going to happen to those dreams? And as you know, Jocelyn, I'm presently now in 3 soap operas and a reality show in Ghana. I did not see that coming. And I've never had to audition for a role. I mean, people literally write roles for me. I've starred in a movie, I've produced my own film, and also done several soap operas at this point. These are just the current ones I'm doing. So, again, unto him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above what you ask or think, according to the power at work with us, when we walk in cooperation with God, He will bring those dreams to pass if they're His dreams of agreement with you. And there comes a point where every dream you have has to be laid on the altar. You have to be willing to walk away from it. You have to say, if it never happens, yet will I praise the Lord. That's when he knows that he has you. And that's when he knows he can trust you with that dream. And then he'll blow it up bigger than what you imagined in the first place.
Yes, Michelle, that is a word that you
Mhm.
just shared. And I was making a note when you spoke of this earlier about idolatry in our heart around our dreams. I don't think we realize how we can make that happen, even if it might be a good thing. Like,
Mhm.
I want to be married one day,
Yeah.
want to have children one day. I
Mhm.
guess how do maybe you just spoke to it about leaving it on the altar is a way to make sure that we don't make that into an idol.
Yes, because you know what? There's a lot of life to live in between the dream coming to pass. That's the time of being developed to accept the dream so that you're able to maintain it once you receive it. So it's really, really critical that we understand that there is a process that God is taking us through. And it's actually to take us to the dream, but He wants us to be ready for the dream. A lot of us ask for stuff we're not ready for. We think we are, but we're not. We know that James says, you ask and you do not receive because you ask amiss to consume it to your own lust. Why do you want what you want? What's it about? God has to do a complete realignment sometimes before He's able to give us those things that He's even placed in our heart, because He says He'll give us the desires of our heart. If we're delighting in Him, we begin to want what He wants, not what we think we need. There's a big difference.
Mm. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, those who are listening right now, you just gave them some medicine. You fed it to them real quick like that. I mean, I realize that has been the case many times over in my life where I said I wanted something, I wasn't ready for it, and when I had that thing, I might have self-sabotaged that thing. I might have not known how to particularly care for that thing.
Mhm.
And so, a guest that I interviewed a couple weeks ago, she talked about lessons in the lingering.
Mhm.
Right, and how while we're waiting for whatever we're believing God for, we can do so kicking and screaming. We
Mhm.
could or we can entrust that, okay, God knows the timing. I'm in this season of lingering, but there's lessons that I can learn along the way. So I think what you
Yes.
said just shines such great light on that.
Yes. It's really interesting because once you get that thing, you realize that you were not ready when you first asked for it. You go, oh, because hmm, how can I say this? They say when you buy a house, don't just think about the price, think about the cost. The price is one thing. That's the initial thing that you pay for having that house. But baby, there's a cost for owning that house. There's maintenance, there's insurance, there's all kinds of things that pop up to surprise you, fixing the plumbing, fixing a light. Those were the costs that you didn't bargain for. So if you get it before you're ready to have it, you'll quickly bottom out and not be able to maintain. So I believe that that's where God stands on any issue in your life that you have a desire in: marriage, a promotion at work, a financial increase. If you don't know how to handle money, you'll just end up wasting God's money. So all of these things are things that we have to consider and say, God, prepare me for the desire that's in my heart. And then I trust you completely with the timing of delivering that thing.
Amen. Amen. And with it, when God says no. I heard someone say this before. His name is actually Pastor Bob. He
Mhm.
says, "Do you have enough faith in your heart to believe that God's no is as merciful as his yes?"
Oh, yes, there you have it. It is
Yes.
true. I remember somebody said, "Thank God for the no." Some
Right.
things you don't even know, baby. I could apply that to a couple men I thought I couldn't live without. And then a couple years later, I saw myself, "What? Thank you, Jesus. What was I thinking? I'm glad you were thinking for me when I couldn't think for myself. You knew that's not what I wanted.
Yes.
Really."
Yes, God
Mhm.
knows. And so in the grief, I think we have to be honest about the fact, God, I was disappointed with that one.
Yeah,
God, I'm struggling. I'm hurting with that one. And so we're not suppressing because we can do
right.
some damage in ourselves, not allowing ourselves the space to express what we're feeling. But I
Exactly.
guess we have to be careful not to get stuck there in that
Yeah,
space. At
yeah.
some point, we got to release it. We can't just continue dragging this thing around with us, right?
Right. I wrote a book called Release the Pain, Embrace the Joy. And I talk about those different steps of coming back to yourself and reviving your joy and life. And I talk about the fact that first acknowledge how you feel. I mean, God knows your heart anyway. I just figure if He knows my heart, I could as well just confess it and get it on out of the way. Confess it. um I even take the permission to grieve over it for a little while. Elijah got depressed about some stuff going on in his life, and he laid under a tree and complained, and God fed him, sent ravens with meat, and sent angels with water, and all kinds of stuff, and he fed him for a season, and then he said, okay, it's time to get up and go. So make an appointment for recovery, but go ahead and feel what you feel when you feel it, for a short time, and then decide to stop massaging the issue from position of negativity. It's now time to still maintain a grateful heart. And maybe at that time, you even write a gratitude journal for yourself so that you can remind yourself of the things that you do have in the midst of what you're looking at that you think you don't have yet. So nurture gratitude. Keep a journal of thank you, Jesuses, thank you, Father Gods, and then decide when you're going to make steps towards recovering, because you've got to make a date with that. You've got to be purposeful about deciding, I've chewed on this long enough. At some point, I got to swallow it and move on, learn the lesson and move on. And that's the other part of it. Writing down what are the lessons that I need to be getting in this time. Um, and the one lesson could be, I'm not trusting God enough, or that, certain things trigger me to look at disappointment a certain kind of way. Where did that come from? What other experiences have I had that might now be feeding me false information about this situation? Because every this is not that. So, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's key. I didn't want you to necessarily stop. I was just, like,
Mhm.
affirming what you said, that
Yeah.
how our past experiences sometimes can cause us to see things through a lens that
Yes.
is negative, that is
Mhm.
clouded, and so, is there some additional advice that you can offer someone who experiences that quite often?
I think you've got to stop and disassemble the situation. Maybe there's some things that look like the old situation, but is it really the old situation? Um, what makes you think that? And can you be fair and have enough grace to let it play out, so that you're looking at it from an objective point of view instead of being subjective? Um, every this is not that. And that's a mantra that you need to just repeat to yourself at that time. Someone was late, someone else was late and never showed up, but this person is late and they actually had a good reason for being late. We have to deal with every instance in our lives on an individual basis. Even when we're accumulating lessons, we still have to be able to lift, separate, disseminate, and give grace, and make sure that we're not jumping to a conclusion, but responding to a situation in a realistic way.
That's good, and it takes work, and sometimes we're gonna get it wrong. I'll say
Yeah.
from personal experience where I've said,
Mhm.
"Oop, yep, jumped the gun there, that was a trigger."
Mhm.
But I've also learned in those moments when I have been triggered and I might have mishandled the situation,
Mhm.
what I can do in that moment is apologize to the person who I did wrong to by,
Yeah.
maybe taking my anger or frustration out on them, and I can do the work around, "Okay, God, obviously there's something there that needs to be searched," but
Yeah.
not be in the space of condemnation that the enemy likes to do when we make mistakes.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, all of this that you're describing is a process. You don't get here overnight to learn
No.
all the lessons that you shared.
It's called emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity. That's the path that leads us to a place of being more even. I remember, back in the day, my highs were very high and my lows were very low, and somewhere along the way, God wants to balance you out so that you're more even, and you're more calculating, in how you respond emotionally. We can't always live in our feelings. We are people who walk by faith. So faith sees the positive even in the midst of a negative. There's a story about two little boys in an experiment that was conducted where they put both of the little boys in separate rooms that were filled with manure. They left them there for some time and then came back to see how they were responding to their situation. One little boy was just sitting on the mound saying, I can't believe I'm stuck here. This is terrible. And they went to the other room, and the little boy was flinging the manure around. And they said, what are you doing? He said, with this much mess in here, there's got to be a pony somewhere. And so I always say, look for the pony.
Love that story. Yes, because
Look for
it
the
just
pony.
it just shows, like, there's gonna be mess, there's gonna be junk in life. I
Yes,
And I think that this is where some churches or spiritual leaders have done a disservice in not talking about how to find joy in the mess. We
yes.
don't
Well,
talk
they,
about
they, they promise you no mess. Come to Jesus and everything will be all right. No. Everything will not be all right. Redemption is there for you. Eternal security is there for you. But in the meanwhile, you live in a sin sick world and you're going to be subject to some things. But what separates us from the rest of the world is how we respond and how we overcome. We now have the backing of a powerful force that can help us get through anything and even inform us ahead of time about some things so that we avoid certain things. But the rain falls on the just and the unjust. So, really, for the most part, it's sad that the church sells false promises to people, you know, and then they end up being disappointed in God. And God said, I don't have anything to do with that. I mean, I gave everybody free will, and unfortunately, that messes up a lot of things. But his greatest act of love was to allow us to choose for ourselves.
Yes. So in the choosing, we can choose to be the boy looking for the pony, or
Yes,
we could choose to be the person wallowing in the mess,
exactly.
because 'cause you're gonna be in the mess regardless.
You're doing the best. So you get to pick your attitude. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? I just saw another interesting experiment that I think is perfect for this. A man was in the front of a class and he had a glass of water, and he said, "How much do you think this glass weighs?" And so they speculated, "Oh, it's light. It's not gonna." He said, "Yeah, but if you hold the glass long enough, it becomes heavy." How long are you holding on to disappointment? You can hold it and it can be light because you get rid of it and you set it someplace in the right perspective in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit. Or you can keep holding on to that thing. And the longer you hold on to it, the weightier it gets, the more of a burden it becomes. That's a choice that we get to make.
I love that analogy. So many things were running through my mind as you were sharing that. And I think for me, one question that I have is sometimes we think we have released certain
Mhm.
things. We might have been at church one Sunday, the pastor said, leave it at the altar, and you run into the altar and you
Yes.
slam that thing down.
Hallelujah.
You like, I'm leaving it here with just righteous
How many
indignation.
times you need to get loose, woman?
And they're like, "She was at the altar last week. Why'd she up here?"
Yeah.
I'm trying to release it again. And so I say that jokingly, but in all seriousness, sometimes there's certain things in our life that we thought we let go and release,
Mhm.
and it's still there. And so in that dynamic, what would you say to that person who finds himself in that space?
You've got to revisit taking it back to the altar again. Sometimes there's a process of release. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away. And when it doesn't, you have to stop and ask yourself what thoughts are still attached to pulling you back to that place. You know, um, what do you, I had a situation like that in my life. And years went by and then I ran into the person or something happened. I can't remember. But I found out I was just as angry. I was still mad, and I was like, what is this about? Who am I really mad at? I mean, I had to sit once again and unpack that. Am I mad at them or am I mad at me for allowing myself to be in that situation? Where is this anger coming from? And can you just say to yourself, Michelle, that it's okay, that you're human, that you're not perfect every day, that you don't walk in complete wisdom every day, and then mishaps and mistakes are going to happen in life. And if God has released you, don't play God and not release yourself. That's what we do. We revisit, oh, I was so stupid. Oh, why did I do that? And it makes us upset all over again. Forgive yourself.
Can you say that one more time for the person who's really struggling with that?
Forgive yourself. Sit down, write a list on what you need to forgive. Write a list of all the things that made you upset, angry, disappointed, feel betrayed in that situation. And sometimes when you're looking at disappointment, a friend of mine said, disappointment is a dist appointment. We made an appointment for someone to show up or a situation to be in our lives. That person might not even have known about the appointment. They didn't show up and you feel dissed, a dissed appointment. It's disappointment. So, what appointments have you made? Did the person know about the appointment? Had they agreed to the appointment? Did they sign up for the appointment? Or you just decided that they should keep the appointment? Hello.
That goes to those expectations, the unspoken expectations that we often
Exactly.
have that are so real in our mind. I think
Mhm.
I'm learning along this journey called life that I can't expect people to be mind readers, right?
Right.
And
You
you
know, the prophetic are even pathetic at times. So, you know, you need to you need to be clear about what it is you want and know if the person knows what you want. You know, it's too much of a burden to expect someone to anticipate and know your every need. That's where God comes in. We as humans, we fail. I'm going to fail you. You're going to fail me at some point. Am I going to keep a chalkboard with, like January 1st, Jocelyn didn't call me back. I'm going to hold on to that for the next 20 years. Really? Come on now. Something might have been going on in Jocelyn's life. Jocelyn might have forgotten. I mean, these things happen. And so we've got to be able to live life with open hands. We've got to be able to wear life loosely, because as long as we're dealing with human beings, things are subject to error.
I like that. Live life loosely. I think sometimes we go through life with a clenched fist, just just hold it, and it's like ready to fight, ready to hold on to things. And I I just had an image in my head. I'm not sure if you've seen a picture of a little girl who has this little small teddy bear, and she's facing Jesus, and Jesus has this huge teddy bear behind his back, and he's saying,
Yes,
give this to me, like your little teddy bear to me. And she's like, I don't want to give that to you, Jesus.
right.
And he's saying, if you give this little thing to me, I have so much more for you. But
Exactly.
the clenched fist, right?
Clenched fist, man.
Yeah.
Keep us from receiving the greater thing. If
Yeah.
we really know the heart of God, we should know there's always a greater thing. You can't lose something bigger than what God has for you. You can't. You really cannot. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
But knowing God's character, it
Mhm.
has to involve that. It has to move from what you described earlier, having a head knowledge,
Yes.
to really saying, "No, God, you're more than just theory. You're real."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
going back at the history, as you described earlier, saying that God has this track record and it's good with me. It's not just
Yeah.
for someone else. God is a miracle worker. God is faithful. His desires are better than any desire we can have for ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Sometimes he's just waiting for that thing to fall off. And when it's gone and we say, oh, forget it, he goes, oh, thank you. Good. Now we can move on.
right, right, because some of the things that we're holding on to is keeping us stuck at a
Hmm.
certain level, because you're gonna have to release certain things in order for you to go to this next place that God is calling you to. So
Yes.
it's it's understanding living life through the loose hands as you described.
Hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, so Michelle, I would love to learn more about what you're doing nowadays. There's so much. I mean, you mentioned soap operas and master classes, but I mean, is there some things that you would love for the audience to hear about today?
Well, Love Masterclass is coming up. The new semester starts at the end of March, March 28th to be exact. So they can go to my website that you've listed, to sign up and find out about that. They can take the masterclass or they can subscribe to Love Capsules, which is kind of the cliff notes of the class that will be delivered to their mailbox 3 times a week. And they can just check it out on their own time. The other thing is, I have MMH tours. So if they want to pull together a group to come to Ghana, I would love to show them around, and be their escort on that trip and give them a different experience of Africa. And I'm getting ready to launch my fashion line, which is a limited edition, one of a kind pieces only collection in March. So that's pretty exciting. And as you said, I'm busy acting as well, and I'm finishing my next book, which is called Next.
Ooh, I love it. I
Because
love
there's
the
always
title
a
of your
next.
book. It's always something next. What you up to next, God?
There's always a next. It's
Yes.
never over.
And that's the beauty. It's the next chapters of life that we have to look forward to, even
Yeah.
while we're enjoying the present.
Hmm.
And the one other thing I wanted to hear you speak a little about is your band, Relevance, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, my music ministry. You can also log on to our YouTube page. Please subscribe. We're trying to get momentum going on that page, Relevance Life. Or you can go to my page and do the same thing. But we're really trying to build up the following on Relevance Life on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. and IG. It's the same tag for all of them. We are an eclectic group. We do music called Rockspiration. It's an eclectic mix of rock and jazz and salsa and all kinds of things, but principally based to give life with every song. And we are live streaming worship music at the end of every month. So you'll get new music from us every month once you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And we are hoping that we'll be able to start touring when the doors open and we regain our freedom from COVID, which I think is going to be soon. You know, we're wrapping it up now. God's wrapping it up. I think he's finished accomplishing. He's almost done with us. We're almost finished baking. So when we get done, good and done, we will be able to move on. So I'm really looking forward to us traveling and spreading the good news through song.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and the band is wonderful. If you all are tuning in, please subscribe and follow Relevance. They will bless your entire soul.
Oh yeah, we won't leave any stone unturned in your soul now.
Yes, yes, and I just want to say, Michelle, your ministry has been such a blessing, and to speak to how, the mess that we're in can be used for good. We can find a pony in the mess. You
Yes.
did that exactly through your ministry. One thing
Mhm.
that I wanted to share is that shortly after I connected with Michelle, the pandemic hit
Yeah.
and we were all stuck in our houses trying to figure out what to do with ourselves. And
Mhm.
one of the beautiful responses was, Michelle, you started a hangout
Yes.
for people. And I would love for you to share a little bit about that as well.
The MMH Hangout meets every first Saturday of the month now. During the pandemic, we were on every Saturday because everybody was stuck in their house for months. And we wanted to be able to hold each other's hand through that. And women and men logged on from all over the world. We had people from Ireland, Australia, Africa, America, Canada, the islands. And so I now do it once a month. And we usually have an amazing guest that gives us light in different topics of our lives. So we go everywhere from relationships to finance to you name it, we're covering it. This year, we've got such a lineup. I'm booking people up already. So we're going to have Dr. Kim, who is totally a health and nutrition person. That's amazing. And we've got Devi Titus coming up the first Saturday of what month are we heading to? March, yes. And she is a cancer survivor, but she also is just an amazing source of wisdom on so many topics. We're going to be talking about renewing because we're still shifting and pivoting and finding new ways to express life and to live our lives. People are still at a loss as to what do I do with myself. So we're going to be talking about that. And we've got Junie. She's going to come on and talk about trauma one month. And I think each of the elders takes a spot every quarter. And I'm excited. Jamal Bryant just accepted and said that he would do one. So we are going to be having a great time with a lot of different people visiting. We just finished a session. If you didn't see it, you need to log on and see it. Oh my goodness, Derek Triplett just, oh my goodness, it was fire in the house talking about relationships. I think that was one of the best sessions we've ever, ever, ever had. My hair was blowing back in the wind. I was like, oh no, he didn't just say that. So if log on to Facebook or one of my other pages. It's up for a little while before it goes into the room for the tribe, which the tribe is something that we've created. If you need a safe space to interact with other women, so that you've got a place where you can be prayed for, supported, and get additional resources that are not on social media. There's even a level for if you want to sign up for accountability to accomplish goals. So it's kind of a mini coaching platform. And that has just opened for registration as well. So these are areas where you can connect with us and walk with other like-minded women in a safe space and be nurtured and make new friends.
Love it. It is a blessing. It's been an incredible joy to be a part of your ministry. It's helped me to grow so much. And I could only imagine what you're doing for people across the world who have tapped into your ministry. And so I'm very grateful for you, Michelle, and what you're doing for God's kingdom. You are such a faithful servant.
And I'm grateful to have you in the circle because you guys bless me too. I
Yeah.
couldn't do what I do without you. So
Yes, yes. Well, Michelle, before we end our time together, is there any final remarks you would like to share with someone who's tuning in today around the topic, or just anything that you've shared that you want to emphasize today?
Well, once upon a time, Joseph had a dream and it looked like it was never going to happen. And I think it was because he saw the dream in a specific light, but God had a different idea and interpretation of his dream that was much more huge than what Joseph saw coming down the pike. Joseph just saw his brothers liking him and his parents respecting him, but God saw him saving a nation. But there was a process to groom him into that man to be able to do that. And so I would just like to say that in the midst of your dreaming, know that whatever you dream, God's got a bigger idea for that dream than you do. And therefore, He's going to take the time to prepare you and groom you to be able to step into that dream and handle it. So don't get disappointed. Don't be dismayed. Don't question God. Just ask Him. Don't ask Him why. Ask Him what. What am I supposed to be doing in this season of my life as I wait for the manifestation of what you've promised? How do you want me to handle it once you give it to me? Already anticipate receiving, but just be prepared to receive and embrace the process of Him grooming your character, deepening your integrity, and making your wisdom more expansive.
Amen, Michelle. Thank you for that word. It was penetrating my heart in such a way. That's what God's word does. And so I just appreciate you. Everyone, make sure that you connect with Michelle, michellehammond.com. There's a number of resources there for you. You will not, you will not regret making the time out to see what she has there. So thank you again, Michelle, for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Yes. All right, everyone. So this was an amazing broadcast, and I know you know some people who can benefit from this today. So I'm going to encourage you to share this broadcast, whether you are watching on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on Facebook. So at some level of social media, find a way to share this message. Encourage someone who might be grieving a loss of a dream today. Also, remember, we have a number of resources available to you through our company, including trauma healing groups that we can help you start at your church, or you can become a part of a scheduled trauma healing group on our website. And we have Christian counselors available for you to walk with you on your healing journey. So learn about all of these resources at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. So that's it for this week. Please make sure to leave a 5-star review as this broadcast ends. And we look forward to seeing you next time. But until then, keep your faith on the journey.